Hi, and welcome back to another episode of Sewing for My Sanity. Thank you to all my new subscribers, and thank you for liking, following, and commenting. Awesome. So today we are going to be talking about the creative process. I know for some of us it's hard to get started. For some of us, we get started and then we putter and we stop. So today I'm going to share with you my creative process. Now, I know what you're thinking. Your process might not be my process, but you know what? We can learn from each other. So as I'm teaching you about my creative process, maybe you'll pick up one or two tips, and guess what? In the comment, you can share with me what is your favorite part of your creative process. So let's go. So before I start sewing, I usually get some inspo. Yes, some inspiration to get me sewing and get me started on a new project. So my inspiration generally comes from three places. The first is what I like to call glossies. We all flip through them. We flip through a magazine and we go, oh, I really love that. I really like that. I'm gonna sew that. And then guess what we do? We find a pattern that looks very much like this, and then we change things up, and voila, we have something custom made just for us. So my first source of inspiration is usually something out in the universe, in the atmosphere. Another good example is I was recently at my college reunion. I was going to say the number, and then I changed my mind. Guess what? This girl had on the most fabulous top. I mean, it was so fabulous. I stopped mid-sentence. I turned and I said, "Oh, honey, I'm going to make that." And my classmate said, "You're going to make what?" So guess what? When I got home, I found a very similar pattern that I'm going to tweak. So something out in the atmosphere may trigger our inspo. Number two, it's going to be a pattern. We've all done this. We go to Joann and we say, "Booyah! I love it. I'm going to sew it." Why? Because it's so cute. And then you think of what you're going to do and what you're going to tweak and what the buttons are going to look like. So my second inspo is usually a pattern envelope or something in a pattern magazine. And then of course, number three, you guessed it, my favorite and probably yours too, luscious fabric. How many times have I looked at a fabric, touched a fabric, and immediately decided what it's going to be? So this third muse is fabric. Okay, so where do we go from there? Okay, so that's step one. We have inspiration. What's step two? I know people are going to say, "Oh, I'm going to go for the fabric. Oh, I'm going to go to the machine." My number two step is to always go for notions. I know that sounds weird, but I'm going to tell you, when I sewed a swimsuit, I had everything I needed except this ring notion in the middle. And I didn't have it. I couldn't find it. Joann didn't have it. And the thing sat on my table until I took a random trip to Atlanta and ended up finding the ring notion. So I would say the second step is always to gather your notions. So I'm just going to use this pattern. I haven't opened it. It's a Nomi pattern by Mimi G. And I would look on the back and I would say, okay, I need a 7-inch zipper, and I need 4 1-inch buttons, and I need a 2-inch side belt buckle. That belt buckle is going to be the rate limiting step, because look at how much of a difference it makes if it's janky. Yes, I said janky. So if you don't coordinate that belt buckle with these buttons, it changes the whole entire way the outfit looks. So the next thing I'm going to do is gather my notions. So I will give you an example of how I did that. This is McCall's 8438, and I always gather all of my things together in like a pile, because then I can see how colors and patterns and things are going to go together. So this is McCall's 8438. It's a coat that I'm working on right now. And what I'm gonna do is look on this pattern and then say, okay, I need wool and flannel, and I need 2 1-inch buttons, and I need lining. So this is one of those things where I saw this coat and I thought, winter only lasts 2.5 seconds here, but I want to look cute when I'm 2.5 seconds of cute, right? Okay, I was in Paris. Remember my last Paris fabric video? Guess what? We found this blue wool elastane. And remember, I showed you on the blog, I showed you that this fabric resists water. Remember, it resists water, so it's a really great coat if you are in a place where you get sprinkles. So I brought this back home from Paris and I didn't have any lining. So I needed lining. So I'm contemplating right now, maybe you all can tell me in the comments, what should I do? I'm contemplating this kind of Minecrafty, silky, it's a stable fabric, but it's a different feel than the solid, right? Because your lining's gonna be important. When you look in the inside of a coat, sometimes you say, oh, that's cool. That's real cool. Maybe this is cool, or maybe it's not, I don't know. So I will put those two things together. And then I was in Orlando and I found the buttons, right? So these are the two 1-inch buttons that I need for the coat. Beautiful. And then the last thing I will add onto my project is the thread, because there's nothing worse in the world than having a kooky color like this blue, and you've got to try to figure out if you can put the thread together and if it's going to match. You really want something like this to have a coordinating thread. So that's the pile. And then I will combine 3 of these. I know you're saying, why 3, girl? Why are you working on 3 projects? I'm gonna tell you why. Because 3 is all about harmony, wisdom, and understanding. So 3 projects at a time. There's another reason. Sometimes I get bored. Okay, the reality is sometimes you're sewing and you're like, I have looked at blue thread for how many minutes, how many days, I don't want to sew blue anymore. So I'll switch to something else because I'm bored. I'll also get stuck. Sometimes I'm putting in, I think this is the Sapporo coat by Paper Cut. I got to I got to the inside and I don't know, I got stuck. I was like, do I hand sew this? And I just needed a couple of days to not think about the Sapporo coat by Paper Cut. So I went on to another project. So this is one of those things that was done in a collection of 3. So now I want to show you my collection of 3 that I'm working on right now. So once you get all of your piles full, so that means pattern, fabric, lining, notions, and thread, then we start pattern cutting and sewing and we're good to go. Now here's the thing. I told you I get stuck, I get bored, and sometimes I just don't want to. I don't want to sew this anymore. When that happens, I just switch projects. I switch from the coat to the jacket, or jacket to the leggings. And I always put a project in there that could be done in a couple of hours. Why? Because we all want a sense of accomplishment. We all want to feel like we did something, we accomplished it, and it's all not too hard. So make sure when you set up your piles, you have one that's super easy that makes you feel good about yourself. Last but not least, let's always make sure we're making things that are fitting into our wardrobe. When I first started sewing, I was just making whatever. And then I realized that these patterns didn't really fit into my wardrobe. So the last part and the first part of my project is to make sure that it fits very nicely into my wardrobe and will be usable. So I hope you learned something from my creative project and my creative process. Hey, if you have a tip that you would like to share, please drop it in the comments, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.